What does it take to be innovative in today's corporate world? Two things that come to mind are time and money. Now, they are pretty precious commodities. They're always in short command, and they're jealously guarded by CFOs and by accountants. INSEAD Professor Hal Gregersen says that these people have to chill out if innovation is going to take root. Hal joins us now. Welcome to INSEAD Knowledge.
Glad to be here, Shelley.
Okay, it sounds like we're talking about fiscal conservatism, and innovation is by nature disruptive. How can you merge these two? The CFO is paid not to take risks, basically.
Well, the reality is that innovation is a team sport, and so for every innovator, there's got to be an executor. For every person who discovers new ideas, somebody has to deliver them. Mm-hmm. And so at Amazon, you've got Jeff Bezos, who founded that company. He's a discovery person. He's constantly out there asking provocative questions. He's experimenting, trying new things, and fundamentally getting disruptive ideas that have changed his company again and again and again. Mm-hmm. Well, Bezos needs someone in the CFO role to play a counterweight to all those great ideas. Mm-hmm. There needs to be a reality in terms of organizing and planning and analyzing and making sure it all works and putting some fiscal reality to it. And when they work together, great things happen. But when innovators are only operating on their own, they often operate in a way that's counterproductive, or if executors, delivery-driven CFOs are only operating the company, they'll often miss the opportunity to see a great new idea.
Okay, now Bezos, of course, keeps coming, he's batting 1,000. I mean, he's done amazing things with the company, and he's expanded it, he's brought in new business lines. The CFO, I mean, that's a pretty easy thing to back. And what kind of risk really is involved with a CFO and something like that?
Well, it's important to remember that every major risk that Bezos has had Amazon take, the markets have actually been very negative when he takes the risk. So when they moved from just selling books to building massive full-size warehouses to hold more than books because they were spreading beyond books, the markets thought he was an idiot for investing the money in that sort of capital expansion. And we know the story there, it worked. Similar sort of situation. He did his homework, he did all kinds of work behind figuring out how could a Kindle kind of a device operate. Announced it, investors thought, why is he going into that business? Then, more recently, it's the whole cloud computing. And when they announced they were going into that business, the markets once again said, you're nuts, and they crushed the stock over this. Mm-hmm. And basically, Jeff had to have a CFO who could work with him on understanding that there was a financial future to these big ideas, even though there was a high probability that the markets were going to say, you are crazy, Amazon, for doing these things.
That's a short-term reaction. I mean, now the CFO would have seen the strategy. What kind of conversation do you think they might have had together?
Well, it wouldn't be the conversation that they would have in other companies that aren't disruptive. And let me tell you the contrast, the non-Amazon conversation. Mm-hmm. So you'd get a CFO often coming in to a bright new idea using language like, well, the marginal cost of our existing equipment can deliver something far cheaper than the total cost of this new investment. So I'm going to use my marginal cost logic on you to say, basically, don't invest the money, CEO, it's not a good idea. Or they use a net present value kind of logic that assumes that the future is going to be the same, and in fact, often it's not, and if we don't innovate and do new things in the future, the discount rate changes, and as a result, they use these financial tools to often destroy the possibility of a new idea even being born.
Mm. All right, so you've got the CFO here. The CEO wants to be a little creative. Maybe it's new for him as well. Mm-hmm. How do you change the CFO? Because he's going to start projecting what he's got in the past, and the CFO is trying to get over that.
Two ways. You change the CFO before you ever hire the CFO, and then you change them once they get in the system. So the before you ever hire the CFO story, again, we'll go to Amazon. It's a great example. They're one of the most innovative companies in the world. So Jeff Bezos was talking to us about hiring a CFO. And one of the interview questions was, tell me about something you've invented. Now, I can't imagine any CFO at another company getting asked that question at an interview to be hired.
I would imagine, though, by just answering that question, you would look at some of the things that you did in a different way and say, hey, I kind of was creative there. Maybe I should apply that. I mean, is that a way of helping to teach somebody?
No, it's really interesting. CFOs and other managers often don't see themselves as being innovative. So I'll ask people in a speech or in a workshop, how many of you are innovative? And rarely will I get half the hands going up in the audience. But if I'll ask the same audience, how many of you have as part of your job to solve problems? Well, all the hands go up. And then I'll say, do you ever solve problems that you never have a solution to? In other words, you've got to create something that doesn't exist? Well, yeah, I do that. Are you creative problem solvers? Yeah, I'm one of those. And so even though they don't see themselves as innovative, anyone, including CFOs, have to creatively solve problems, which means uncover a solution that doesn't exist.
Okay, overall too, in the corporate world, and you've just interviewed quite a few of them, few ideas actually come to fruition, many fail. How can one be innovative, particularly a CFO whose job is not to fail? How can you actually maintain creativity in an environment that seems set against you?
Innovation is a choice. I mean, it really is a choice. So if I want to solve something creatively, I choose to spend my time regularly asking questions that are provocative, that provoke the status quo. I regularly spend my energy and time observing customers, for example, to understand new products and services we might deliver to them. I spend my time talking to people who are different than I am. They think differently. They approach the world differently. I even try different experiments, try new things. That enables me to think differently, to be able to put together and combine ideas in ways that nobody else can. If I do that enough, I will generate novel new solutions for situations in my company, even if the company is trying to tell me, don't do it. Now, some organizations just have this full results-focused, delivery-driven kind of logic to how they approach the world. And if I don't deliver new ideas, even in those kinds of situations, at some point, that company is going to go into decline, and ultimately, it'll be out of business. So it's not an option. Even as a CFO, I have to do this stuff and deliver greater value.
Let me end by asking you, what would you say to a CFO who said, well, how am I supposed to support innovation?
I would basically think of the last senior executive meeting that CFO sat in. There had to be at least 1 to 3 issues, strategic issues, that they don't have a solution to. They're trying to figure it out. They've been wrestling with it for the last who knows how many months, but they just haven't figured it out. And what I would do if I were the CFO is use these discovery skills over the next 3 to 4 months to get a solution to that specific strategic issue. I'd write down 4 or 5 minutes every day all the questions I've got about that problem. And it will lead to new questions which will create new solutions. I'll think about places I could go watch and observe situations that might give me some insight about the issue. I will identify 3 or 4 people outside of my industry, different geography perhaps, and talk to them about their perspective on the problem. If I do those sorts of things, and then I meet with the senior executive team 4 or 5 weeks later, I'd be stunned if that CFO wouldn't walk into that room and deliver a different and better perspective on the problem than she would have otherwise. And it's that kind of legwork, homework that's done in it takes work, but it leads us to creative ideas that help a strategic thinking group of people go a new direction.
You're exercising your creative muscles.
There we go, exactly.
Professor Gregersen, thank you very much for being with us on INSEAD Knowledge.
Thank you.